Okay, I'm getting closer, maybe, or further away. The wings are ready to fly. I went with the multiplex connectors on them and put multiplex connectors in the side of the fuse. Find it over there. I guess, spending that extra few bucks on it because it's not quick release, so at least those are quick release. But all it really has is the 4 thumb screws, 2 on each wing. So that won't be too bad. But yeah, that sounds like I'm getting pretty close. Looks like the tail's all done, the stabs are all done, tail's all done, wings are all done, hatch is all modified. A lot of this stuff's done, but now I'm looking at some things. So maybe further away instead of closer. But remember I showed you when I was moving this, I just took and I moved the arm and I noticed it had some weird thing it was doing. Yeah, right there. Right. See the way the top of that moves over? Where's my finger? The top right here goes from being on this plane to over. And I noticed that when we were making the first video and I was looking at the plane. And you could see why. This is the kind of crap you run into. One, I've always seen guys are pretty terrible about setting up their throttle linkages and throttle servos. And one of the biggest things, they never get any resolution like this guy. We already showed you. He's got no resolution. That's fully slammed to fully slammed. So he has no resolution at all. And that's even more than he's going to get because he's going to be like open. That's going to be his idle. Most of us never need to go below idle because we don't shut the engines off with the butterfly, by starving them out. So it's just going to be here. We shut them off with the ignition kill. So he's got from here to there. That's it. That's all his resolution. Like there would be center. That's fully open. That's fully at idle. So really ridiculous, which this is not uncommon. I've been talking about this for 25 years. I see this crap all the time. But another thing is people don't even know how to set these up. And probably what this guy did, like so many guys do, his radio's got a new model. Endpoints for the throttle servo set to 100, 100. And then he turns the thing on and invariably, almost no matter where he has the position because of sub trim and everything else, he's already binding up here and smashing into the stop or smashing into the butterfly stop inside on the other side. And, unless and everybody should do it anyway. One is not have the servo arm on to make sure your servo's centered up, rotates where it needs to be. And then set the endpoints to as low as you can set them, like 2020. This guy, he's got so little travel here that he would have to have been set to 2020, and then he still might have hit it. But yeah, set him to 2020, then put it on and make sure your throttle stick is in the center. Don't have your throttle stick all the way up or down. So if you put it in the center, you could even be 150, 150 on your endpoints in your radio if you're in the center. But then don't move the stick, But yeah, in here he would have had to go to 2020. I think in the end he was like 2040 on his endpoints to have full travel. So if he was 2020, he started with the stick in the center and took his time. Maybe he wouldn't have broke it. But what he's got here is this is wobbling all off of the stem that comes out that's attached to the butterfly. So this is a press fit, and he has like a riveted press fit, and he has made it very loose. And no doubt he did that with the servo because he set it up with such bad resolution to begin with. Didn't know to have his no servo arm on at all. Make sure that the servo was in its center position once the radio was on. Then after you make sure it's with the radios on in the center, then you could put the servo on arm. But you have to make sure that the radio stick for the throttle is in its center. Start with your endpoints really low, 20-20 or 40-40 on a better setup than this one. 20-20 for this setup, and then creep up on it. Then how do you creep up on it? You know, so go ahead and take it to, you know, a few steps up, and then turn off the plane. Turn off the power to the servo. Then push the servo all the way to one side like this, and then turn the radio on, and it should not go all the way. So then from there you add a couple more endpoint steps in your radio, then you turn the plane off, push this all the way, and then it comes back just a little bit, and you keep sneaking up on it until it just comes back a tiny bit like that, and then you're golden. That's what you want. But yeah, don't do it the opposite way, and be very cautious about the way you do it, or else you're going to end up putting a bunch of strain on your servo, maybe your servo arm threads, maybe your ball link, maybe, you know, any of these connections here, and maybe like he did, where now you've taken and, I can't see my finger in the video, it's funny, you've taken and wrecked this, and you have all that slop in there, plus, you know, a point where you might actually just break this off in flight, which, yeah, kind of for sure I would break that off in flight. So yeah, they don't even know that kind of thing. And then, yeah, so you have to do all that, and there's so much more, like all this geometry, there's so much more to it. Terry Wild's Terry Custom, he has a video on setting up these throttle push rods, you know, and how you can change the curve manually, which it is always better to get things as much manually as you can before you do radio work. And yeah, by shortening or lengthening the push rod and then starting at a different point, this doesn't even move, it's got no, starting at a different point here for your center, you're going to end up introducing a curve. So depending on, you know, where your power comes in, too much or not enough, you can adjust that with the length of the push rod. So yeah, people don't know about things like that. They don't know about all the other things I just mentioned about setting them up, and they end up doing things like this, like, you know, breaking this thing off. So there's that. So there's ways for me to handle this. One is I could just, this is a DLE carb, which I've had good luck with actually, but you know, I think I've got a couple brand new Walbro carbs up there for this size. So I could just swap that, be done. Or I can just take a grinder and grind off the little smashed rivet end, you know. It's not really a rivet, I don't know what you actually call it. It's a mashed over end from the shaft that comes through with a spring on it right there. Yeah, there we go. There's the focus. That shaft comes through and gets smashed over, you know, with a press machine. I just take a grinder when I do it, and I just grind off that little bit right there, and then this arm just pops off. Well, that arm's really short anyway, so I don't miss it. And then I can take and put a PSP aluminum arm on there. I also have some DA ones, Desert Aircraft, and then you put that on where this, where's my finger, where the spring is. It slides over where the spring is, and then you use red Loctite and set screws, and you can take a file, because it's really usually this output shaft is in brass, it's soft like that, and it's super soft, so you just take and file a little flat spot real carefully, and then red Loctite, a set screw in on each side, and then that holds this new hub arm assembly on here, and then that's aluminum versus this hardened steel, so it's really easy to make an extension. I usually just use a high-tech heavy-duty servo arm and extend it. You can drill any size hole you want in it, and yeah, it's aluminum, so it's easy to do. So as a benefit of fixing this thing that he's got broken, right, trying to make that to where it looks easy on the video to see. I think I was doing it better before. Yeah, there we go. So you fix that, you get the extension for resolution. So that ends this little problem where that's all you're going. You know, and then from there you'll actually be going way over, way over. You'll be going 45 degrees in each direction with your arm. Myself over here, this arm will go 45, center 45. So it fixes that problem because you've extended it, and then it fixes this problem with him having broke that connection point. Okay, so what gets interesting on that is the first thing you got to do any of that is take the mufflers off. Well, then it looks kind of interesting. Like this, this trash can plane's like taking some time. Let's see if I can get some scale on this. Okay, that's a stock-looking muffler and a stock-looking length. Well, this one is much shorter from here to here and has all these welds and filings all the way around. You can see everywhere, which I've never seen on a stock muffler. Stock mufflers always look like this. And it's a different size entirely. That's kind of a bad scale because the camera shows big to small, but this makes it look a little more accurate. You can see how much smaller the one is in the background. So I don't know what he did. Some of these old timers get really, you know, into stuff, and I don't know if he cut this with a saw and grinder and stuff and then went to a welding shop, or maybe he is a welder and welded all this up and filed it and painted it silver or something, because like he thought it was going to hit the cowl and need a little cowl relief. Let's see, did he make cowl reliefs? No, he didn't. And maybe he thought he was going to need one. Yeah, that's suspicious. And that's the same side. Yeah, see, he's got a crack right there in a circle for the muffler. Yeah, look at that. Look at that, would you? He's got a repair on it, and he's got a crack on it. So instead of making a little cheeky relief, or, you know, the really cool old guys, what we do, because I'm a really cool old guy, is you can go ahead and, you know, for sure you're going to make the relief. You're not going to do what he did here. See, this motor, I can't really run this. This motor's never going to run right, you know, with different size muffler cans. That ain't going to work. So now I got to make another investment in this thing. I got to buy new mufflers. Yeah, thanks a lot. So, yeah, one, just make a relief, you know, and just make her a little moon-shaped relief, and, you know, let the muffler show and breathe. Like, no one's going to care, you know, like, he's not going to get any field demerits. He would have had the coolest, sickest plane anyway. This thing's so cool at the field. But you don't see old guys with these aerobatic planes, you know. So anyway, that's another story. But yeah, all he needed to do was make a relief. Now, if you want to be super cool, and I'm about to explain what he did do, but which you already know, but it's cheaper than that, is, you know, relieve this nice and big, and then lay up glass over it. So what us other cool old guys would do is take like a tablespoon, and we put a tablespoon here, and then we'll lay glass up over the tablespoon, you know, and then have Vaseline on the tablespoon, pull that out, you know, or super lube like I like to use, and then have a nice cheek, you know, put a nice cheek there that looks real clean because you used a spoon to make it with, and then you know, sand all that down, fill the spot where you pull the spoon out, sand everything down real nice, prime it, paint it, get some white and red. That'd be super cool. But yeah, really, just relieve it. Just make a slot. Look, he relieved these. He got all these other freaking holes. Oh, I can see that's something else I gotta do too. He doesn't have near a big enough hole. Yeah, and he didn't put any baffle in. And he's got a real small exit hole. So this thing was doomed to overheat. Yeah, hopefully he didn't overheat it too much in those 3 flights. But yeah, what he chose to do once he saw that he was cracking the cowl, instead of making a relief, he didn't want to do that. He chose to cut this off and make this muffler. And, you know, it looks like it's about an inch. In fact, let's do it for fun, because I believe, yeah, I mean, it's a big distance, and I believe it is pretty far. Okay, so this muffler can is, I'm putting a ruler on it for you. This one is 1 basic. Well, yeah, it's 5 1/4. That thing's 5 1/4. You can't quite see that. That may make it right there. You can see. It's hard in the camera to quite have perspective, but this one will be easier. And yeah, this one is, we could call this 4 1/4, 4 1/8, 4 1/4. So he's chopped an inch off this thing. And this is what these old, see, he's a modeler. There's no question about it. This guy's a modeler. He is not a flyer. He is not a mechanic. He does not understand geometry or electronics or anything like that. But he's a modeler. Look at all this epoxy. Look at all this epoxy he put on the servo screw and the set screw on the servo screw. This is all just covered in epoxy for some reason. But I think he's using the wrong size arms on everything. The wrong tooth count. He did on the other ones. But yeah, anyway, just showed he chopped an inch off this. Yeah, and got it welded or welded it himself. Filed it all down, painted it silver. Just so he could make it to where the motor doesn't run right. So thanks for that. So that's my elaborate thing. Yeah, I don't know what I'll do on the carb. Use it or just swap it to a new Walbro that I have. But yeah, I'm gonna have to order new mufflers. And what else can I show you? Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna. This servo's pretty good. Probably gonna change it anyway. That's. I may not. We'll see on that. And then, but yeah, gotta change either the arm or the carb, and gotta change this muffler, and gotta baffle, and gotta cut this exit, and make it a negative air pressure dam on this exit. And then I got to fill all these holes he's got where all this air goes through into the fuselage. This got blocked, which is good, but it has holes too, which are not going to do too much to hurt me. But all these holes are way too big. So I have to do all that. Then I should be pretty quick, like a couple hours. Like tank and plumbing, and I mean, tank's already done, just plumbing, a couple of odds and ends. Yeah, I got a couple hours minus this. Now I got this fiasco. All right. Well, and this too. Yeah, all that cutting and baffling and negative air pressure. So looks like a day of stuff, and then I'll be down to a couple hours. So that's the update. All right, out.